Stop having conversations about a single product launch as your innovation strategy. Focusing on one concept at a time is expensive and risky. Furthermore, it creates a randomness to your innovation pipeline. We're here to talk about how to build a clear innovation roadmap that sets your team up for repeatable growth for the next 3 to 5 or more years. We conduct a lot of strategic plans. For the most part, strategy is strategy, so innovation strategy development follows the same approach. However, it's really important to understand the intricate nature of innovation and apply those concepts to how innovation strategy is crafted. Rather than having to choose someone experienced in innovation or choose a facilitator who does strategic planning, we are uniquely suited for innovation strategy because we're highly experienced in both strategic planning and innovation development. Our approach delivers strategy results, which is to focus your innovation team on the winning executions unique to your organization. So what are your options in creating an innovation strategy? 1, do it yourself. Well, this might create a lack of buy-in, or it might not be clear. 2, do a half-day brainstorm. It unfortunately might be wrong because it's not validated, or worse, it could be too general, like saying, let's innovate on convenience or health or maybe nutrition. That doesn't really explain much. We've heard all this from innovation team members who have to execute. So we're going to share how to follow a best practice process. Here are some examples of innovation strategy. The president of a mature CPG brand worked with us to develop a where-to-play innovation platform roadmap that his team was able to use to fill a 3-year, $100 million innovation growth gap. There was leadership at a frozen food company that we worked with us to develop a multi-year pipeline of innovation outside its mature core products. Executives at a major branded manufacturer used us to develop a 5-year innovation strategy and define goals to align innovation leadership on a direction. And last, we defined a venture development strategy for a major corporation to incubate new businesses and business models that expanded the boundaries of their organization. Before we begin, it helps to understand where innovation strategy fits with the typical needs of organizational leaders. If you want to understand issues with innovation or benchmark best practices, it makes sense to start with an innovation assessment here on the left. For innovation strategy, we define where to play, which define innovation platforms and a roadmap of initiatives. Next, when you're ready to execute against those initiatives to develop innovation, we use our method Fusion Innovation to carry you from early stage exploration of that platform to agile market learning, agile product testing, and eventually go-to-market roadmap. Last, if you're looking to improve innovation processes, tools, or capability, we use a people, process, and environmental model that we call innovation capability building. But today, we're here to talk about innovation strategy. So let's get into it. For our innovation strategy approach, everything starts with a good setup for strategic direction. Then define where to play. These are strategic priorities where we need to make choices in what we are doing and not doing. We call them innovation platforms. Platforms can also be called pillars, dig sites, etc. They are the choices for our focus on where to play. Then build your 3 to 5+ year strategy that outlines how to win. That's where we justify and explain the why and how we will execute innovation. And last, build those initiatives into a roadmap. I want to note that sometimes a team might, within a process of innovation exploration, sum up the larger themes to define buckets or areas from which to build a priority roadmap. It can be done, but it's better to have a separate process to explore and define innovation platforms, like in any strategic plan where you are solely focused on defining and shaping priorities. I'm going to take you through best practices to develop innovation strategy now. What are the benefits of innovation platforms? First, it provides a framework to focus teams on the strategic priorities, which are to help define where to play and bring those to life. Second, focusing on a platform also gives the organization continual learning so that your teams can build knowledge and know-how in this opportunity area. Third, it allows for incremental and step change versions or improvements in your roadmap. And last, it empowers teams by channeling creativity and spontaneity, but within these strategic priority bumpers versus single concept ideation that can lead to a random innovation strategy. So now that we know a little bit more about innovation platforms, let's begin preparing for strategy. Another area that's important to think about is strategic alignment, which provides direction before we start to throw people in a room and ask where to grow or how to innovate. Otherwise, you might be fumbling with semantics on concepts like breakthrough innovation or disruptive innovation that get thrown around, and everyone's nodding when actually there's no clarity. So this is a discussion on strategic direction with a small leadership group or team. It could be a partial day workshop or individual discussions where we're going to talk about strategic priorities, boundaries, and desired outcomes of the innovation strategy. We need to define what we mean when we say to our teams to go innovate. Here are some common types of innovation. This example is for CPG brands, but we will adapt these to the common industry or company terms. This is one of the important concepts for defining your innovation portfolio. So, product innovation is one type and the most common, like your product or services that you're developing. Technology discovery or technology innovation is typically done by an R&D department or scientists. Marketing innovation is really the lightest touch in the sense of that you take existing capabilities and you retarget or subsegment to target a new group that you're going after with your same capabilities or products. Digital e-commerce innovation is very common, whether it's products or services or the experience or touch of how you connect with your customer. And the last is business model innovation. So types of innovation are part of the pre-session strategic discussion. The second innovation portfolio concept to think about are levels of innovation risk. Risk is on the vertical axis and targeted return on the x-axis. So we think about innovation in three levels: core, adjacencies, and transformational. So the core business is your existing business, your existing areas. Sometimes they're thought of as line extensions or sort of how to compete with existing market, existing customers, these sorts of things. The next area is adjacencies, where you typically have your product innovation or similar types of innovation. And then the third in transformational is really typically business model innovation or like a moonshot or other big bets. So we're going to use these concepts to define the dimensions of your innovation portfolio strategy. Then everyone knows what is a healthy pipeline, what a balanced portfolio means. So like, is it by launch time windows, level of risk, brand, category, etc. If you really don't have an idea on this, we might stop and build some of these tools and capabilities first. But most of the time, we can help you decide and move forward on innovation strategy. And later, we might work with you to hone these new tools or hone how to manage your innovation portfolio. I hope you can start to see the parts necessary to have a best-in-class innovation strategy that will really work for your team to execute well. So last, of course, in preparation, we want to set some high-level goals and success metrics for the innovation program that will help guide the innovation strategy choices that we're going to make in the workshop. So typically, other preparation for us is that we're always going to develop strategic questions to guide strategy. Here's an example list, and then we're going to conduct the right amount of analysis in these areas for context so that it will help you when you're making these strategy choices, like, industry trends, what's your current state, what are your core competencies, like what do you do well, other historical metrics and things to look at. So now we're ready to conduct the 2-day workshop to explore innovation strategy, to define where to play and how to win. So the approach in this workshop, day 1 is about innovation direction, day 2 is about strategy. We typically bring in 2 facilitators, we maybe 8 to 15 participants, and we definitely recommend in-person facilitation. The outcomes are, I'm going to share with you this with you more visual, but will be your innovation direction, your innovation platforms with your hypotheses that are ranked, etc. Let's start day 1. This is where to play. So you have your innovation direction with your where to play options to build out your platforms. That innovation direction, if you remember, we've been working on this prior to the workshop. So this is this pre-work area with market analysis, guidance and boundaries, core competencies, growth directions, and strategic questions. So now, early in the day, we can just start right out with what are our strategic problems, opportunities, to really define that innovation direction for the day. From there, we're going to spend most of the day on where to play. We'll craft and identify these where to play opportunities. We'll prioritize and shape them into innovation platforms. Of course, we'll also look at your strategy of how to win and look at what is realistic for capabilities and what we might need to build out. Going into day 2, we focus on how to win to build out your innovation platforms. They look like this. For platform one, you might explore the trends and opportunities, possible tensions or needs that we can uniquely serve. And then we'll close out with some innovation possibilities. And later in the day, we will build a roadmap of these initiatives across years and look again at the supporting capabilities and systems to ensure we have a good plan. That is the bulk of strategy development. But still, we have built a lot of this during these 2 days on hypothesis. So our process concludes with the strategy validation final step. Speaking of validation, think about this. Ultimately, business models fail because they are built on faulty assumptions about customer behavior. Well, I saved this part until now to emphasize the importance of including short, impactful insight sprints that bring market research into the process. We use our Fusion sprints to include direct user and purchaser understanding into strategy development and validation. This is a matrix that we use to help identify who to listen to from strategic direction. Are they non-users or triers? Are they light users and switchers? So this is really how we're going to recruit and bring in the right folks based on our strategy. The first part is done prior to innovation strategy. It's our Fusion Exploratory Sprint 1. So this is going to bring context of the needs and intentions to help inform strategy and define the broad innovation platforms. That's on the left. On the right, Fusion Validation Sprint 2 is post-strategy. We say that we have these hypotheses, so let's go test these hypotheses with those same Fusion consumers and validate how we did. We can shape them and make sure that they are not in our words, but our customers' words, so that when we do that, when we execute the initial innovation initiative in another phase, we'll be doing this from a solid strategic foundation. In validation, we might test prototypes if we have them, or even we've used related or competitor product to include. Really, anything's possible with us to get the right information, and all of this is included in how we work. So strategy validation is necessary and why it's our last step in our innovation strategy process. Along with the Fusion insights, we also will use data and if needed, gather more market data to validate and refine key assumptions for input into finalizing the roadmap. Now you will have a supported business case to drive innovation team action. And here's what a roadmap looks like. A 3 to 5 year initiative roadmap to guide testing, developing, and launching of innovation. It's important that we set up project launch timing and think through to the end by answering questions like, can we even launch 2 products in a year? The roadmap creates a rhythm that includes resources and learning focus for the innovation teams so they can surprise and delight target consumers year over year with a steady stream of winning innovation. And for us, if you look here on the left, convenience, nutrition, packaging, and the year process that you go through these 3 different platform examples, when we take time to really do innovation strategy well, we can change those from convenience to making mealtime more enjoyable or feeling good about healthful eating. Or platform 3, innovate quality and ease of use around the product instead of just packaging. So this is really the way to bring your innovation strategy to life. Last, here's the whole process on a page. From alignment on the left, where we do our strategic discussions, our Fusion Exploratory Consumer Research. Second, the workshop. That's 2 days where we prepare for the innovation platform outputs for validation. We go through our validation with consumers and our data to build our roadmap. And then last, I didn't talk about it today, but you're going to want an agility plan because things do change and you will need to know how to manage a 3 to 5+ year strategy process when they do. Fill out a contact form on our site or book time with us from this page address, and we can discuss how to help you develop a best-in-class, actionable innovation strategy roadmap. With our experience in both strategic planning and innovation, using our proven method, you can get the innovation strategy that creates buy-in, alignment, and direction your team needs to work on highly differentiated innovation for years to come. Thank you.